Hello everyone, welcome to part 2 of this replay between WeRRa and Argos Zenith here on Metalopolis. Gonna go ahead and restart up this game. We have another hatchery being laid down at this high yield mineral location. However, I'm assuming Grace will be able to siege tanks up over here, and now in comes some roaches. So roaches trying to take down this planetary fortress, and it should be able to in just a second. No, siege tanks have finished sieging up as these SCVs are now repairing that planetary fortress. That planetary fortress getting 4 quick kills. Back over here, hatchery nearing completion as this Nidus network or Nidus worm now does have some units in its belly, or in the network, I guess, over here. So we will wait to see. Grace does not see any creep being spawned over here, as now overlords being dropped into position. So now there's 2 Nidus worms popping out in the same location. That means that there are 2 Nidus networks, and how is he going to be able to respond? One Nidus network has been taken down, another Nidus network has been taken down as well. So so far it looks like Argos is just trying to hit his, throwing his head against the wall, trying to figure out how to break this Terran positioning. Now overlords once again moving in, and another Nidus worm being spawned in just over here, and so it's not going to be able to, it may be able to complete. No, Marines and SCVs quickly finding that out, and now siege tanks over here able to quickly destroy this hatchery over here. So Mutalisk now flying head on into a group of Thors, and that is never a good sight unless you're using that magic box technique. And now those Mutalisks finally pulling away once again. Back over here we do see a lot of Banelings and a lot of Zerglings as well. So 4 control groups of Banelings, and now these Banelings also have level 3 armor upgrade and the level 1 attack upgrade. Back over here we do see what more Nidus worms just spawning all across the map, and the Terran player constantly using stim in order to deal with this constant aggression. So Mutalisk now pushing in over here, not quite sure what he's doing, but we do have Broodlords now in the works. So 8 Broodlords are now being produced, and taking a look at the unit, we do not have any Broodlords currently out. These Broodlords will be able to deal a significant amount of damage as soon as they come out. The Thors do not deal a lot of damage towards those Broodlords. Broodlords are not light units by any means, and Broodlords also have 1 armor, so these Thors will only be dealing 6 damage per attack against those. 6 damage times 4, what, 24 every 3 units of time, so that is rather slow. Broodlords now making their way across the map. There is a large chasm over here, and is it going to be enough to really fight down and take down some of these units? And now all of these missile turrets are going to quickly get destroyed, but this fight over here, going to take down this one drone over here. So now Broodlords now going after some of these units over here, and as this fight continues, Banelings now going to roll in. If those Banelings hit any of those Marines, that's going to be a very, very bad sign, and just so much death. All those Banelings just splashing, destroying all of these units, and now WeRRa's army is now down to 2,400. Siege tanks now getting destroyed as well. 1 Infestor just falling to the wayside. However, those Broodlords finishing and cleaning up the rest of this base. This is going to be a really, really bad positioning here, as there are no Vikings currently being produced. Oh no, sorry, 2 Vikings, but now he is switching to Ultralisk. So after he has, now that he has 8 Broodlords, he is now switching to Ultralisk, and just a quick change in strategy and change in tech, constantly using those Nidus worms, making Grace believe that he was building a very, very strong ground army. So Grace just countered with a lot of Thors, a lot of Marines and Marauders to try to stop any of those Nidus worms. However, now Broodlords moving out. Broodlords, however, now getting shot down by 2 Vikings, as more Vikings continuing to be produced. But there are 2 Nidus worms. Where are they being popped up? I do not know. Over here, no, I cannot see where those Nidus worms are popping up. I do know that 2 are currently being produced, as those Broodlings are just tearing away. More Vikings now being trained, and here they are. So these 2 units over here, are they going to be able to spawn any additional units? There are some Banelings, and Banelings going to roll into there and pop out of here in just a second. But those Banelings able to just completely destroy this whole entire fight over here, and down goes more, but taking down so many of those units. Vikings able to clean up there and not having any sort of escort, and that really was the issue. No escort for those Broodlords. However, it may not matter, as Grace is definitely in trouble now. And Argos now taking up another base on the other side of the map. We do see a medevac and Viking drop moving out, and there's a lot of drones here to destroy. Yeah, over 32 drones here as this fight continues beyond full saturation. 1 Queen quickly going to get taken down over here. Army-wise, it is 2950 or 2775. However, Ultralisk just rolling through, and this is going to be a base trade. My expansion for your base, and that is never a good sign here, as these Banelings just rolling in to try to take down a lot of the key buildings, and now taking down some of these barracks as well. Ultralisk now ramming their heads up, trying to take down some of these supplies here, and now you see an Ultralisk chomping away to take down more and more of these SCVs. SCVs now going to get destroyed. as more and more Zerglings just running from this one Nidus network. Zerglings now moving out over here. Are we going to have any sort of fight? We have some Marines and Medevacs trying to drop down, trying to stim and take down some of these Ultralisks, but those Ultralisks with that 8 armor, so difficult to deal with. Those Marines are only dealing 2 damage per attack. Sorry, with that 6 armor against that 8 damage, 8 attack Marine, and WeRRa is forced to say GG. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this crazy game between Argos and Grace. And really, hats off to Grace, or hats off to Argos. And the first couple of games that I've cast for him, his games were really more macro intensive and didn't have as much micro. But now Argos, even though he hasn't improved his micro nearly as much, he has adopted into the Korean mind games a lot more, faking overlord drops, faking a very, very large ground army with constant Nidus worms, changing it up to brood lords, and then changing it up to Ultralisks. Yeah, and at the end he just ended up trading up 1 expansion over here for the main expansion and a lot of the production buildings. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys enjoyed this.